Hey kids, this is Aaron from the podcast that wouldn't die, and Kevin and I use Zencastr. You think you're better than us, that you're using something else? You're wrong. Zencastr's the place to be. Who are you to deny it?
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code DIEHARD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time for you to share your story.
Only a fool would give up a chance for a 30% discount.
You think these are serial murders?
I don't know. First one I found dates back to the 60s.
The only link between all these cases is the symbol.
The symbol is associated with a pagan deity named Bagul. He consumes the souls of human children.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello!
This week, we're discussing the horror classic, Sinister, starring Ethan Hawke and Vincent D'Onofrio in kind of a shocking cameo that pops out of nowhere. And others. Shocking to me. I don't know. I knew very little about this movie.
You've never seen this?
Never seen. This is the first viewing for me. You saw it in the theater, you determined, right?
Yes. I had only seen it once, and I'd seen it at the theater, and I dragged our cousin along to go with me, who doesn't like horror movies. And the beginning of this with the people hanging from the tree, it was just about set her out of the room.
Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist. Aaron, what's the latest?
I saw Conclave with Mom and Dad.
I thought it was good. Yeah.
It was good. They liked it too. So there's
Ray
that.
Fiennes.
I have had potatoes and gravy for 3 days. And a lot of red wine. So ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Did you watch the Yacht Rock documentary yet?
Not yet. I'm still trying to finish up Evil. I'm down to like the last 3 episodes. And I am just so obsessed with that. But then it gives me freaky dreams.
I imagine it would. 100%.
You don't even know. Why aren't you watching it?
Because I'm watching. I'm wanting to talk about the Yacht Rock documentary. God damn it. Not fucking Evil.
I'm not that big of a Yacht Rock kind of gal.
There's don't know what the hell you're saying. You don't know what you're saying.
I don't want to hear fucking Ambrosia again, for God's sake.
You don't? I love Ambrosia.
I know you do.
That's how much I
feel for you, baby.
Dynamite. But what's interesting is when the Doobie Brothers released What a Fool Believes, which was written by Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
And it was album of the year, song of the year, blah, blah, blah. Basically swept the Grammys, right? I love that. It's a banger. It's a banger. It basically created a wave of copycats trying to emulate the crazy Michael McDonald sound. And there was one song, which I also enjoy, that almost got sued for plagiarism. This song, it was called... It's Steal Away by Robbie Dupree. Do you know that one?
Steal away, dun, 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 dun. Why don't we steal away?
Almost got sued.
The Doobie Brothers, when they burst through the door, I remember they did a special appearance on What's Happening, where they
100%.
Run.
It was a 2-episode arc. The first one was called Which Doobie You Be? Okay. And it was a very special episode because Raj, Dwayne, and Rerun go to see the Doobie Brothers in concert. And they're in front row seats for some goddamn reason. At the local high school the Doobies are performing. And somebody like a shady character persuades Rerun to pack one of those gigantic tape recorders from like the late 70s in his trench coat
Bootleg. That's right.
to bootleg it. And Rerun, as anybody who watched What's Happening knows, when he gets his groove on, it's quite energetic. There's high kicks and all sorts of shit that go on when Rerun is doing his dance in the aisle. And of course, the tape recorder flops out. Michael McDonald stops the show and has to
lock the doors.
Lock the doors. And it was a teachable moment. He taught Rerun did not end up in handcuffs. He taught him, hey, it's bad to pirate our music from us. So he learned a valuable lesson that day. So
meanwhile, he was busted for popping and locking to the Doobie Brothers, which is a crime in itself.
It is a crime, no question.
You children can just Google that on YouTube. Popping and locking.
This is before the popping and locking phrase. I don't know what he was doing.
Every dance was pop and lock.
100%.
Get out of here.
100%. Sweet Jesus. Go check out the Doobie Brothers on What's Happening and then watch the Yacht Rock documentary. Anywho.
I will watch it eventually, but I have too much evil in my world right now, so.
It's not that long. It's like an hour and 45, something like that.
No! So. I have to finish this before I can be open to something else.
No one even knows what the hell evil is. What is evil?
Evil is like the X-Files, except it's the Catholic Church. So they have a priest, they have the skeptic, the psychiatrist, and then they have like a tech dude. So they have two skeptics and a believer that go and investigate this phenomenon. But one of the the skeptics' family's being targeted by demons. So they're doing exorcisms while personally fighting off things, but it can get dark.
Okay, fair.
It's good though.
I'll take your word
Paramount
for it.
Plus, free if you have cable.
Well, let's get this train back on the tracks. Why don't you give us? Is that the sound a train makes when it gets back on the tracks?
I'm trying to get. I got the. I guess there's no wheel. I don't even know how you make things turn on the train.
How do they do it? We don't know.
Lean over like a catamaran and try to 100%. Get the thing to go that way. I don't know.
That's how they do it in Swarm, at least. Give us your 30-second synopsis of Sinister.
A true crime writer and his family move into a small town in a lovely 50s ranch-style home, only for the family to discover that's the place the murders took place. Hijinks ensues, and we learn that if you marry a male writer, he will leave you for dead just to kiss his own ego. Thank you, Shining. So divorce him, grab your children, and leave, because bad things is going to happen.
I have to say, and early in the movie, the wife is like, hey, and she says it very matter-of-factly, if shit goes bad, I will take the kids. Is that a deal? If you're already making those kind of deals, we're having some marital issues, I would argue.
It is a classic. It just totally reminds me of some kind of a Stephen King up thing. Because, you're not usually drinking this early. So your husband has to be an alcoholic to finish these books.
Yes.
But while putting your family in danger. I mean, honey, you could also go get a job and then stay behind. Behind.
You could.
I mean, you don't have to move into the murder house, next to the murder house. He could spend a long weekend there, gather information, and write his book.
Yes.
You don't have to be Norman Mailer and become a swinger to write about swingers. That's just a choice.
That is a choice. Because that's the thing. Because she asks him early on, she's like, oh, shit, we didn't move on the same block as the murderer, did we? He's like, oh, no. It's not a neighbor. Not a neighbor.
It's not a neighbor.
This is the house.
This is the house. And clearly they didn't have the internet in what, the 2000s or something? So you wouldn't just punch in your own fucking address to see, people hanging from trees, FYI.
Well, she doesn't want to know. The wife absolutely does not want to know. Right?
Don't be a dum-dum. That's what you get, dum-dum.
Well, what did they say? That he has written like 5 of these books. And they're still living paycheck to paycheck, I guess. Being a novelist doesn't pay the way it used to, I guess. Or not
I
novelist.
guess not.
True crime
Self-published on Amazon, maybe?
Exactly. That should have been the scene where they open up the garage and just crates of all the unsold books. Because that's what happens.
Well, even the sheriff in town goes, well, your first one was really good, but the rest of yours are all shit. And you cause like people to die and...
Right. It was the first book he wrote, it was called like Tennessee Blood or some shit. I don't know.
Tennessee Blood.
Like he cracked the case, right? The cops didn't figure it out. He cracked it. So now he's chasing that high. So he's written these books where he's I guess criminals are going free now because of what he wrote and shit. So he's messing it up.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever read true crime, but a lot of these books are after the murderers in prison. Have you considered that?
Right.
Do you have to be the detective? All these people in the FBI couldn't find them, but some rando dude who moves fresh into the neighborhood, suddenly he's going to figure it all out.
Right. So let's talk about this. You mentioned that you'd seen this movie before. You saw it in the theater?
Correct.
With our cousin Heather. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because you
had to sit in the front row or something stupid like that.
But you had no recollection. When we chose to do this movie, you didn't realize you'd already seen it.
Dude, there's too many. There's too many. We've been doing this for like 5 years. I have 2 books full of movies.
Fair.
I do not have my mind palace is not in order.
Well, the problem is, what was it? 4 years earlier, Insidious came out, which is a remarkably similar title.
Yes.
Insidious and Sinister. 2 kind of like, I guess, creepy names that don't really tell us shit about what the movie is.
I literally forgot Ethan Hawke was in this because I thought it was the dude from Sinister, who's also in all the other movies.
You mean from Insidious? See, we're already doing it.
Insidious. See.
You thought Patrick Wilson.
I thought it was the dude from what's his name? Patrick Wilson. I literally thought Patrick Wilson was in this one too, and then I was like, Ethan Hawke, what's happening? And then 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh yeah, the crab crawling crazy kid with the night terrors. I just kept thinking, is this what Becky's dealing with?
100%.
The boxes.
Don't joke.
Send her that clip. Send her that clip.
Cuts a little too close. Is what I'm saying. No question.
I don't want to see you with just an eye peeking out of the brambles in the backyard.
No promises. I can't say that won't happen. Sweet Jesus. No, so I walked in. I don't want to say I walked in cold. I think I knew, spoiler alert, that the reveal is the kids are the ones killing the parents. I knew, I like the final reveal. I knew that was coming. I just didn't know the minutia on how we get there.
It's like long legs.
It's 100% long legs, and it is there are certain threads that do kind of connect it to Insidious in some ways, where it's like the kids kind of being possessed by some kind of otherworldly character. And
kids can be fucked up. Let's just be straight. Everybody thinks they're innocent now. Kids don't lie. Yes, they do.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
They're little sociopaths. You got to beat the morality into them. Otherwise, it's just sociopath time. Children are born sociopaths.
You don't develop empathy until later in life. You don't. It's like your brain isn't developed enough to appreciate that things exist outside of your own wants and needs. Mm-hmm. So, interesting.
That's just science.
It's just science. God damn it. So why don't we jump into the highlights? What do you got, Aaron?
Dude, just the scene of the bodies, and then a limb is just slowly sawing the branch, which causes all the family to go slowly up as they're kicking. And then later on, they find these film strips of each of the movies, and you see it's the missing child doing each one of these things.
Well, that's the reveal.
Death is terrible.
That's the grander. Okay, what the case is in this one case is that the parents and what was it, the brother, were all hung from a tree, murdered, and the daughter was missing or something like that, right? There's one
A
child who's
child
always
is
missing.
always missing.
Correct. Well, he eventually like ties it to like every, I don't know if it's like a set number of years, but like 10 years prior, something happened in St. Louis and then in Sacramento and then in
It
Orange
has to do with
County.
their moving triggers it.
Correct. It's yes.
They
So
all lived in each other's house. So you live in that house, then you move to the new house. That's where you get killed.
well, because basically what it is, and I don't know where this starts, but like presumably the parents discover some shit that leads them to realize they're living in a murder house. That some
Right.
other family had died in this house prior to them living in it, and now they're in danger. So they're like, F this. They sell the house, go move back to their old house, and that's the final like turn of the key. That means that that's what they're waiting on, which seems totally arbitrary and strange.
Right. So the question is,
Yes.
does everyone get the box of the old film with the murders?
Yeah, I think so, right?
And no one turns them into the police ever.
That's the shit, because you're right. He moves into the house where the murders, but the house has been totally cleaned and sterilized or whatever. There's no
Right.
evidence laying around. And then he goes up into the attic and there's this crate. And he literally writes down why is this crate here? The police have been through this and this seemingly has evidence of murders. Why would the police leave this behind? And at one point he does pick up the phone to call the cops, but his own kind of ego is like, well, I'm going to crack this case, which works for him. It makes sense for him as a true crime writer. What about all the other parents? Right? Because this only works is if as a parent you're scared. You're like, I'm scared that there's some kind of devil shit going on in this. I've got to get my kids out of this situation. Right? So presumably they have to all find the crate filled with the old 8mm film stock, which, as you know, no one's doing old reel-to-reel 8mm in the last 25 years.
Right.
Right? It was camcorders and shit like that.
I mean, I might bust it out just to see what was on it, but I doubt you're gonna be sending exterminators up there. You probably just pitch all that shit. You probably give it to me to be like The Ring or something. But I can't imagine you just sitting down to watch all of it. Like the first time you see it's a snuff, wouldn't that you just take it to the police?
Absolutely. No question. Yes. The moment you realize, because that's the thing. And what's crazy about it is each film has like its own little title on it. Barbecue, hanging with the family, right? Lawn work, right? Yeah. Pool party. And they all have kind of these innocuous names. And then you watch it and it's just like, oh, the pool party is people being tied up to their lounge chairs and sunk to the bottom of the pool with cinder blocks. So they all drown. Then the barbecue is the people are tied up in the back of the Pinto and somebody throws a Molotov cocktail in there and cooks them and so on and so forth. So right. And that's the shit. When there's one moment where I really jumped in this and it was lawn care, where it's like you see it's a rainy day and you see somebody's turning on the lawnmower and you see them like point of view camera. So you don't see who's pushing the lawnmower. Just pushing. And then you see there's a person in the way and I go, shit! I like jumped. You figure it's coming, but just see it. I literally had to look away. I mean, I don't think you see anything. This isn't
I don't think you really see anything.
This isn't Eli Roth, but just the idea of it. Like, I had a reaction. I was like, oh man. So, and after I saw this, because Grace was like, oh, did you watch Sinister? Because evidently she had just watched it. And she was like, did you notice that one of the murders take place in Orange County? And I was like,
yes. Was it La Mirada or something?
I don't know if they ever specify, but they say Orange County. I think that's lawn work. takes place in Orange County, right? And after that, I kept calling her Bagul. I'm like, you're Bagul or Mr. Boogie, as the little kids call him.
Boogie.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, and I looked it up. So there is no Sumerian, death god called Bagul. This is all just made up shit.
I was like Googling that too.
Bagul.
I was like, womp.
They started with like the Boogeyman, and then that became Mr. Boogie, and they're like, well, we're gonna tie this into some fake-o.
Mr. Boogie sounds like he's wearing a leisure suit and he's tearing up the dance floor.
He's on that yacht rock video.
Frankly, he's yachting it and rocking it.
He's with Earth, Wind, and Fire out there, no question. But he doesn't, and I guess that's the thing. All horror movies are predicated on the protagonist making some poor fucking choices, right?
It's all gone to shit the minute he hangs up with the police. First of all, you can't do that, at least in California. How do I know? Because I had a child that would constantly call 911, and I wouldn't even know it until the police were at the door wanting to know if they could look around.
Oh, I was a kid, maybe like 9 years old, and me and a buddy crank called 911.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And they're like, and what is your phone number? And we kind of made up like a phone number. And they're like, really? Because this is the number we have you calling from. And it was the real number. And we both looked at each other. It was a oh shit moment. We hung up the phone, ran into the backyard, pretended like we were playing all along because the phone immediately started ringing. Ring, ring, ring. And
that's
Dad
when you knew you were in trouble.
Oh, yes. Judge Dad answered the phone and sent the friend home. And yeah.
Party's over.
Party is over. And it was funny because my dad's like, were you guys on the phone making some calls maybe? And my friend's like, no, we weren't doing that. And I immediately buckled. I'm like, yes, we did it all.
Your friend's a sociopath, as I was saying.
Kid
Didn't
was
even blink an eye. Was this John Eyeball?
Was not John Eyeball, I'm sad to say. Yes, so you're right. But I guess he didn't call 911. He called the whatever it is, the offices of the police department. Yeah. So I mean, maybe they still
he called
trace
911.
Did he? Oh,
yes.
Well, there
on
you
a
go.
House phone.
Yes. Because that's the thing, man. It's like there's a reason I read a lot of fiction. I can't read true crime, especially it's like serial killers and shit. I can't read about that. That will send me into Night Terror Central, no question. But you read all that stuff.
When I was pregnant, that's all I read. I'm pretty sure my son is going to be a late serial killer because it was bad. I would go. I had a job at Apple Computer. It was a long-term temp job, and during lunch, I would go to whatever bookstore and come back with a stack of true vampire stories, crimes.
That's awful.
The FBI versus the KKK, and stack them up at my office, and people are like, maybe you should get a book cover for that, so you don't see what kind of a freak you are.
We'd rather not know what kind of freak you are. If it's all the same.
We're Apple Computer. We're kind of loose as a goose, but you may be too far.
I want to go back to that opening scene where it's like you see the tree, and you see the people with the burlap sacks over their head, and they have nooses around it over the branch. Because I remember watching
killing scene.
At first I didn't know what was happening because you just kind of see like they're not moving, and you just see this kind of a shape kind of moving up and down on the branch, and then you see the branch start to tear. So it's clear like, oh, somebody's up in somebody we can't see is up in the branch with one of those tree trimmer saw kind of deals, cutting the branch, and the branch is tied to all the nooses. So as the heavy branch falls, that pulls them up and hangs them. And
a slow strangle.
And because you're right, it's like a lot of times when you the gallows or whatever,
you want to break their necks.
Correct. They put the noose on the side, so when you drop, it's and then you're just dead. rather than the slow raise, which means, yes, you're just getting slowly strangled to death. When they move in, that branch is still hanging down. Still got.
Yes. The whole house has been cleaned out.
Yes.
Perfect. We just thought we'd leave that old hanging branch there. Why not just leave the nooses too while they were at it?
Why not leave the corpses while we're at it at this stage of the game? Sweet Jesus.
Extra.
Because the cops are like, we would love it if you just pack up and hit the road. And I guess this is an issue where they go, because basically they're trying to solve these unsolved crimes. And in some ways, it's like pointing the fingers at the local cops saying, you f***ed up. You messed
it's
up.
It's upsetting to the people who live there who are trying to, deal with it.
Well, and usually he doesn't move into the actual house where the murders occurred. It's like, so this is taking it to a whole new level. So it's...
It was a big house, but then you see they had like a mansion and no one's buying their house. Well, if no one's buying your house, why are you paying 2 mortgages?
You're right.
You stay at the musty Motel 6.
When they were moving back, and you see it is literally a mansion. It's a palatial country manor
that nobody wants, even though it's a famous author's house.
Right. Makes no G, because he's acting like I'm going to be writing history books if we can't get this shit done. It's like, how about sell them the mansion? That'll probably cover you for a while. Am I wrong,
dude? Meanwhile, can you get me some very expensive whiskey? Because I'm just going to stay up all night drinking it and staring out a window.
Correct. Well, and that's the thing. He's like, I have to lock the door to my office, which is a huge room. By the way, it was like a gigantic, it was like the master bedroom practically is like, this is honey, hope you don't mind. You're sleeping in the guest cottage because I'm taking the master bedroom as my office. Hope that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, sweet Jesus. What else you got?
Oh, dude. As we talked about, there's like on top of everything else, they have a kid with night terrors who is often naked, running on 4s out in the forest.
That was pretty creepy too when he comes out of the cardboard box. The night terror kid.
the night terror kid, who's also clearly a Russian gymnast, it comes crawling out doing a crab thing, and they're like, "Oh, that's just Timmy O'Toole. Wake up now, baby! Stop crab crawling."
Right. They were having some parental issues because you had the one kid with the wild night terrors. Like literally not just walking down the hall shit. I'm putting myself in a cardboard box. I'm putting myself in a cardboard box and then crawling out.
Sealing it.
Yes. 100%. And the other kid, the little girl, is just painting on the walls. Painting all sorts of random shit. Honey, only on your own walls. Not on every wall in the house. What are we doing?
She's so young. And no parents go into the room to see that she's drawing a tree with bodies hanging off of it. They don't go in and make her bed, collect her laundry, or at 6, she's handled that all on her own. She's
on her own. I mean, again, she's got like real paint. She's not doing like light watercolors or some shit. She's got like oil-based. You'd be slopping that all over the pillows and the comforters and your books and family photos.
Exactly. How about some paper? Can we get some paper for you, honey?
Can't do it. You gotta let the little butterfly fly.
Would that work?
100%. Sweet Jesus. So then we also meet the deputy who's like, I'd like to be your deputy so-and-so, who's your helper on the inside, if that works.
Deputy so-and-so. Well, isn't the sheriff the senator who used to be on Law and Order all the time too, on top of everything else?
Yes, Fred Dalton Thompson, who was like a Nixon. He's great. He was a Nixon aide originally, back in like I think it was the early, like late 70s or some shit. Who basically parlayed that into kind of an acting career, but he was also, like you said, he was a senator in Tennessee for maybe a term. Not like for 30 years or something like that.
Oh, it was only one term? That's interesting.
But he was like acting while he was the senator. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
It's
funny.
Doing a really good job.
He's good. I mean, he's not doing like Othello off Broadway or any shit. But when
No,
you
but
put
he
him,
has that kind of folksy, legitimate. He has a sense, like an authority figure kind of a vibe. He's great.
100%. And then Vincent D'Onofrio, who we have Zoom meetings with, who's like the professor of bizarre
Of freakiology in this bizarre, tiny town that no one's heard of, but that it has a major university.
But I have to Zoom with you. I can't just drive across town to visit you. No, that's a Vincent D'Onofrio thing. You know, it must be. He's just like,
He's
look,
like,
I'm
literally phoning it in. I'm zooming it in.
I'm zooming in because I think he's uncredited in this.
Oh my god, because he's a recluse, and at this point,
Right.
he's always an interesting. He literally always plays people who are on the edge.
He's great. And Law and Order: Criminal Intent, I believe, is his show.
And he's having. I used to watch that all the time because he was always on the verge of just being. I think they institutionalized the character a couple of times.
A couple of times. What once wasn't good enough.
With the girl from Stir of Echoes was his partner.
See, it all comes back together.
But he's goes back.
He's the one
6
who
degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Absolutely. Vincent D'Onofrio is the character who kind of introduces us all to the lore of Bagul, where it's also like scorpions and shit and dogs in your backyard. Oh, that's all Bagul shit. So if you see
start killing the dogs of the neighborhood.
If you see a giant scorpion, are there scorpions just wherever you go? There are scorpions because I've never seen a scorpion like in the wild.
Like in Minnesota, Alaska,
Iceland. Is there a lot of scorpions there?
There's so many, and they're transparent, so you can't even see them.
It's
the only time I've ever seen a scorpion in my entire life is when we lived in Palm Springs.
But did you see them in person, or did you see them like in a cage?
No, in person.
Oh, for reals? I never saw them.
When we lived on Birdie Way, that's because it wasn't so built up. There was much more wild spaces.
Oh shit! Well, there you go. There you go.
It was one in our front yard.
Was there one in your attic next to the crate of reel to reels? 100%. 100%. So then the grand reveal, which is it was always a bad sign. So they've moved back and they find like the missing pieces of each of the film reels, which reveals that it was the missing child had killed.
Yeah, they found it because he didn't notice it. Well, at one point he lights it all on fire and it's back.
Yes, it's back. Right. Because
but with extra pieces. And I'm sorry, he didn't need to buy all this equipment. Any person who lived through the world of cassettes knows how to fix a tape.
Absolutely.
Cassette music were notorious, same with 8 tracks, of eating the tape. So you had to go fish it out. Part of it gets stuck and it would break, and you'd sit there with your scissors and scotch tape and tape it back together, and you were good as gold.
100%.
You don't need all this fancy business.
Right.
And I knew the minute he paused that, it was going to be so hot, it was going to catch on fire. And he's old enough to know better.
He's old enough to know better. No question. But that's the thing. It's like if he doesn't watch these videos, then they live. If he ignores the crate, calls the cops, gives the crate to the cops, then they live and everything's fine. Right. It's basically when he starts watching it, it opens up the door that allows Bagul to basically seduce the daughter in some way. They don't. That's the thing. They don't really tell you how the Mr. Boogie entices the kids to commit murder. It's just by him being about, they just are like, I'm on board. Whatever you need, Mr. Bagul.
And all the murder children are frightened of Mr. Bagul. But when they're committing the murder, they don't seem frightened. When they're still alive, they're not frightened. But once they go to the ghost child world, because they're little sociopaths, it all goes back. It all goes back. The circle's complete.
And when the little kids are running around, little ghost kids are running around, the makeup looked fucking shitty. If I'm being honest, it looked like some kind of high school theater production. But that's the thing. After, and that was kind of a shocking moment where basically she, at the end of the movie, she dips some kind of green, like a glow stick which in his drink, which he doesn't seem to notice, because that's part of the thing. Because they're little kids, they're not going to
Right.
overpower their parents, but they drug the
Right.
parents, drug the brother, and then she comes around the corner with a big old axe, and you're like, oh shit! And you think on some level, well, he's got to get out of this, doesn't he? No, he doesn't. So when she's drawing the little like kid pictures on the cover of the crate or whatever, you just see the people like in pieces. So she hacked him up good, like The Shining, essentially.
Honestly, she's small.
Right.
I mean, that's gonna be exhausting for an adult to whack
Yes.
up 3 people. No,
Chop chop. That was ball game.
choppity chop.
And that's it. And they made a sequel to this movie where it's Deputy So and So like still continuing the investigation. I guess I didn't see it, but that's what I heard. So
Probably not worth our time, I'm guessing.
anything else before we go behind the scenes?
Let me take a little look see here.
Take a little look see, please.
No.
That was it. Ball game.
That's it. Good enough.
Okay. Good enough. Let's go behind the scenes.
Let's do it.
The family that was hanged on a tree were all played by stuntmen. However, when the scene was first
they weren't
done,
a real family? I'm sorry.
not a real family. When the scene was first done, the stunt coordinator botched the preparations for the scene,
shit.
resulting in one of the actors coming loose from his harness, which went up around his neck.
Ah!
Fortunately, he was not physically harmed, and the stunt coordinator was fired on set soon after.
Yeah.
Not immediately.
He went on to have psychological trauma for the rest of his life.
The Pool Party 66 snuff film in Sinister was extremely difficult to film, according to C. Robert Cargill. The actors and actresses who played the Doom family were tied down to lawn chairs and pulled underwater in reality. And the filmmakers had to be extremely careful that nobody was harmed while filming the scene. That seems horrible.
God.
What are we doing? You don't have to really
What
tie
are we
them up.
doing?
Good Lord.
Yeah, seems bad choices.
Further complications occurred while filming The Killer underwater. Nicholas King, who played Bagul, had to wear weights and stay underwater for several seconds while he was filmed.
Everybody did that in the 70s. I used to
Sweet
shove bricks down my bathing suit so I could sit at the bottom of the pool.
Did you tie your hands behind your back and blindfold yourself as well?
I poked my own eyes out.
That'll make a difference. Writer C. Robert Cargill got the idea for the script from a nightmare he had after watching The Ring in 2002.
The Ring will give you a frickin' nightmare. Not so much Bagul. Have some crawl through my TV. Now you got a situation. Now that you say that, hell yeah. Spider Boy is right out of the ring-a-ding-ding.
Oh, absolutely. Well, because it has, honestly, the night terror shit has nothing to do with anything.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just like, ooh, it's creepy that he's got night terrors.
Yeah, that's fun. That was just, and then we'll have the kid have night terror and he spider walk. Yeah, that's a ticket.
There is very little blood, almost no cursing, and no sex in this movie because the filmmakers were hoping for a PG-13 rating. However, they still got an R based on content alone. That's like The Conjuring, basically. R for scary.
Honestly, you don't have to have blood. Those scenes of a family catching on fire, the family's dragged to the pool, the slow motion hanging, that'll f you up. You don't need a drop of blood.
100%. Ethan Hawke had never seen the Super 8 snuff films prior to the date of recording Sinister. When the scene where his character watches the snuff films ready to be recorded, the soundtrack was matched up with the films, and Hawke played out his role. His reactions to the films were recorded for Sinister and used in the final film. Boom.
Well, what's interesting is we didn't talk about this, is there's films of the people playing.
Yes.
But you don't know who's taking them, and then the same role then has the death on the Super 8. And just fun fact, if you want to do this in real life, those cartridges, they still make them. It costs about $40 to buy the Super 8 cartridge and another $40 to process it. So I think you get about 3.5 minutes. for about $80.
But what if you're Bagul? Is there a Bagul discount that you can kind
I
of
was
get?
wondering, did Bagul go to the 1 hour photo? Well, perhaps he was processing in his Bagul lab. What was he doing all this? And then what
Hard to say.
happens when they run out and stop making this? Is that when the killing spree stops, or does he have a Bagul factory where they continue to make Super 8 films?
Yes, he's like Santa Claus with little elves that make the shit for
That's
him.
what the children are for. He needs them to process photography. Boom.
According to co-writer C. Robert Cargill, Bagul, Mr. Boogie, was originally intended to look more like the Johnny Depp version of Willy Wonka. Look at that.
Oh. Quite frankly, the Depp version of Willy Wonka was quite disturbing. Would he talk
That's
like
what they
Michael
did.
Jackson too?
Absolutely. That would be
that was
terrifying.
a bad choice. That was such a bad choice.
After going over the idea, it was decided that the deity looking like Willy Wonka would be too silly for the film and not scary or mysterious enough.
So we just decided not to show him at all. He's Gene Simmons reflected in a pool.
That's it's Gene. Yes, it's Gene Simmons. 100%.
Well, he's wearing fucking fucked up Kiss makeup is basically what you see. You see like a distorted white face with black. Maybe it was Peter Criss. I don't know. It's one of the members of Kiss. I don't think it was Ace Frehley.
It was Ace Frehley. 100% it was. Let's take a look at the cast and crew, shall we?
Let's go.
Directed by Scott Derrickson. You know him from such things as The Black Phone.
Never saw that.
No, I didn't see it either. Doctor Strange. He directed the first one.
I didn't see that.
Sinister and the Exorcism of Emily Rose, which I did see. I saw that in the theater. Not bad.
But those are good.
Let's see. Ethan Hawke played Ellison Oswalt, the writer.
Is that?
I know. Come on.
What kind of a fucked up name is this?
You know him from Training Day in 2001.
Very intense.
Before Sunrise in 1995.
Didn't see that.
Before Midnight in 2013. Before Sunset in 2004. Boyhood. The list goes on.
Before the kids wake up.
100%. Juliette Rylance played Tracy, his British wife. You know her from Sinister, 2012. The Nick, 20 episodes.
She is British.
She's very British. She was in Frances Ha in 2012. And this year, Arthur the King, the Mark Wahlberg movie about he goes on adventures and meets a crazy dog along the way. So
I don't think I'm going to see that.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
James Ransone played Deputy. He's been in a ton of stuff.
Yes.
Deputy
so-and-so.
Deputy so-and-so.
That may be the best part.
He was in Sinister, playing the Deputy in 2012. He was in It Chapter 2 in 2019.
I don't think I saw that.
The first one was so good and the second one was so lousy. That was the problem.
Wow.
He was in Sinister 2 in 2015, playing ex-deputy so-and-so. And in 2008, he was in the TV miniseries Generation Kill. 7 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's real stuff.
That's real stuff. Fred Thompson played the sheriff.
Love him.
You know him from such things as The Hunt for Red October in 1990, Sinister in 2012, No Way Out in 1987.
I do like No Way Out. Wait, I'm thinking of La Femme Nikita. What's the redo of La Femme Nikita?
Point
is that the No Way Out?
Point of No Return.
Okay.
No Way Out is your favorite Kevin Costner movie.
Oh, no es bueno.
And Baby's Day Out in 1994. Okay. Fair enough. Anybody else you want to know about who's in this?
Not a goddamn one.
Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio, uncredited as Professor Jonas.
He's like, just give me a check. Don't even put my name on it.
He was in Men in Black in 1997.
Yeah.
He was in The Cell in 2000.
Yeah.
He was
I
Private
think I saw
Pile
that.
in 1987's Full Metal Jacket.
Ah!
And he was very, very briefly in Ed Wood as Orson Welles.
Okay.
Boom.
And
Yes.
he was in Mystic Pizza.
He's been in a ton of stuff.
You forget. Mystic Pizza was good, and Julia Roberts was in it, and I didn't hate her that much. I kind of still hated her, but not
Okay.
as much.
Not
and Lily
as much.
Taylor's in that, and you know my feelings about Lily Taylor.
Annabeth Gish was in that
Annabeth
one.
Gish, of course. It's the female Brat Pack of the early 90s.
100%. Let's take a look at the ratings on Rotten
Especially
Tomatoes.
that Gish girl.
Absolutely. Sinister, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, has a 63%.
Oh,
Do you
that's
know what-
quite low.
Do you know what the fans gave it?
70?
62.
Ooh.
Boom, pretty close. Let's take a look at the top critics. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
You mean, let's just be clear. It's the ghost of Roger Ebert.
Well, he was alive when he wrote this.
Really?
Sinister is an undeniably scary movie with performances adding enough human interest to give depth to the basic building blocks of horror. 3 out of 4. How about that?
Yeah. How about that? Thank you, Robert. I guess he was alive right then.
Okay, his name is Roger, but okay, fair enough. You called him Robert. Robert Ebert. Oh, sweet Jesus.
Well, that's what his close friends call him.
Wesley Morris of the Boston Globe says, as much as Sinister wants to tell a story, there isn't much of a story to be told. 2.5 out of 4. Wah, wah. So, Aaron, what is your rating for Sinister?
I will say it doesn't have the depth of Conclave, but
What does, though?
it was entertaining.
Yeah,
It was spooky.
yeah.
I'm gonna give it, I don't know, 3.25 out of 5. Divorce Ethan Hawke.
I'm right there with you. I say 3.5. It's not like amazing or anything, but it
I
is good.
literally forgot I saw it. So
That tells you something. It had genuine spooky moments. No
yeah,
question. I mean, that's all you can ask for one of these things where the kids go crazy.
yeah.
If I want to see
Goddamn
crazy
kids.
kids, just look at my class. So there you go.
You
No
just turn
offense.
around and look in your living room, I would say.
This house is already sinisterified. I'll tell you what. Any last
You better
thoughts
be
on
burn some sage. That's my final thought.
burn some children, as far as I'm concerned. Good Lord. What? Any last thoughts on Sinister before we move on?
No, it was good. I mean, if you really think about it, it doesn't make sense. And now that you say it's been influenced by The Ring, it totally is.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see, like I said, some connections between Insidious, and I think I read somewhere that Blumhouse wants to do like a crossover, and not a joke, in Sinisterious or something. Maybe I'm making that part up, but yeah, they want to do something.
I thought synesthesia. I think it's
Could be. So,
but how would you know it was a crossover? Because they were so similar,
right? Well, I guess Patrick Wilson's character is still around. I haven't seen any of the other Insidious movies, so I don't know.
All right, so look forward to synesthesia when that comes out.
Synesthesia is what it will be called, 100%. So thank you very much. We are more or less across social media. We're on Blue Sky, we're on Threads, TikTok, we're on Instagram. You can obviously watch us on YouTube. You maybe watch us right now. Who's to say? Like Sinister, you may be Bagul peeking through the window right as we speak.
Bagul? No, that's Cherry in the corner. That's not Bagul. Or is it?
Or is it? You can email us, the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We are we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review, won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
I have some media. I just sold a couple pieces on First
Nice.
Dibs. I have work at Artsy and First Dibs, Polaroid photography. I am on the Instagram. I am the Cult of Aaron. Join the cult. And if
Join
you
that
have good
cult.
new cult shows that I could watch, because I think I've become an expert on all things cults, drop me a line. What documentary should I watch next?
You don't want direct messages. No direct
I do
messages.
not want direct messages, especially from people I haven't talked to in 10 years.
Fair. Fair. As you know, we like to include comments, questions, thoughts, and feelings from our friends across the social media. Aaron?
I got an email the other day from Betty Bagul, and she was again talking about the skeleton key. And if you want to do a crossover, she was saying skeleton key, angel heart crossover.
100%.
Nothing could be finer. And Becky Bagul, yes, 100%.
And we have never done Angel Heart on the show, by the way.
I get confused with the old podcast.
Right. It's hard. It's hard to keep track.
Remember that? We recorded that on our video podcast, and I had a bottle of Lewis Cipher wine, and we were sitting in Lake Arrowhead. It was snowing, and we were like trying to record it on the patio.
During Thanksgiving, ironically. Oh, sweet Jesus. Next week, we're doing the horror classic Cutting Class, starring a young Brad Pitt, Roddy McDowell, Martin Mull. It's an all-star cast, for goodness sake.
Brad Pitt still looks like he probably smelled bad. I don't think he ever took proper care of his hygiene.
Clearly. You can watch Cutting Class. It's free.
If you want to.
If you want to. It's on Prime Video. We're on Prime Video. And by the time this one comes out, if you want to join us, we're on an episode of Gag Me with a Chainsaw with our friends, discussing Cutting Class there as well. But as you know, if we go on another show to talk about a movie, we're gonna drag the carcass back home and really get down to the
gnaw those bones.
Absolutely, 100%.
And also take whatever interesting thing they said and claim it as our own.
Untrue. So send in any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions about Cutting Class, and maybe we'll talk about it on the show. So thank you very much, and be well.
I say good day, sir.